Hello, welcome to VMC. I'm Dr. M. The last video that was put out on this channel covered the popular person Cesar Millan. So I wanted to put out a contrasting video which will be highlighting some positive reinforcement trainers. A lot of them were suggested by you actually, so that we have a side-by-side comparison to help more clearly demonstrate why positive reinforcement is the current standard of care for ethical research-based behavior modification. So come join me, you'll learn something today. As we will be covering a few different trainers today, I won't be giving any history off the hop. I will try to put a little bit of information about each of them on the screen once we get to a video that is showing some of their work. I also wanted to remind everybody I already have some videos defining the 4 quadrants and also covering the immense amounts of research that we have about positive reinforcement, punishment, dominance theory, and the like. So if this is something that you aren't already familiar with, you will need to go back and watch those videos first. It will help to give you some base understanding for some of the terminology that's used and why positive reinforcement is the current standard of care. I will link all of those videos in the doobly-doo for you. All right, let's dive in. So the first person we're going to react to is someone named Chirag Patel. He has a bunch of videos up on YouTube teaching things like drop it, leave it, wearing a muzzle, etc. So let's see how a positive reinforcement trainer approaches these sorts of scenarios.
Step 1. I show Spook the muzzle, followed by treats that she enjoys a lot, such as cooked chicken and ham.
So
It's important to use treats at this stage of training that your dog enjoys a lot.
That's right, because we want to build a positive conditioned emotional response to this new object.
Note the order in which I present the muzzle and the food.
Very important.
The muzzle is always shown to Spook first, followed by the food.
Exactly.
This is important because we would like Spook to make an association with the muzzle that only once the muzzle appears does nice things happen.
Exactly.
As well as food, you can use other activities your dog enjoys doing, like playing fetch, once you present the muzzle.
Absolutely. Notice how he traded the ball for the treats.
Once the muzzle disappears, Spook is ignored. She gets no praise or attention. Only once the muzzle appears does nice things happen again.
That makes it really clear to the dog.
This step is really important, especially with dogs who have had previously negative experiences with a muzzle.
Absolutely.
Really spend time building a solid foundation at this stage. Here, you can see Spook's body language change as soon as the muzzle appears.
You see the tail go up,
the tail starts wagging,
her body went loose, she became animated.
Once your dog is showing
Exactly.
signs that they know what the muzzle means, you can then move on to the next step. Now that Spook has learned that the muzzle is a predictor of good things, we don't want her to freak out when it is clipped around her neck. So we clip it on as you would with a normal collar, without placing her mouth in the muzzle piece, and play nice games.
This assumes
Here I throw food side to side as she enjoys catching the food.
That assumes that wearing a collar is something that the dog is used to.
Or wary of it. It is important at this stage to do short and frequent training sessions.
You always quit before the dog gets over threshold. Look at her body language. She's not trying to avoid him. She comes back to him for more. Her ears are eager. Her body is loose and wiggly. Her tail is loose. She's a happy dog. Oh, she's so cute.
Once your dog is comfortable at all these stages, you can then move on to the next stage.
Look at her. She's like, oh, I know this muzzle means a good thing.
What we will now do is put food into the muzzle and cup it in our hand so the food does not fall out the bottom. We will then allow Spook to eat out of the
Now look how he's pulling the muzzle away.
Eating out the muzzle, we will gently move the muzzle away from her nose.
He's pulling the muzzle away and she is so engaged that she's like, no, where's it going? I need to keep my nose in. This is helping her to understand that having the nose in is what gets her the reinforcement.
This will ensure that she does not get in the habit of pulling her head out of a muzzle, because because we want her to learn to place her head into a muzzle.
Very good point.
Pull away.
We want her to keep her face in there.
Note that I do not push the muzzle into Spook's face.
Absolutely.
I allow Spook to put her own head into the muzzle. This is a very important step. Do not push the muzzle into your dog's face. Allow your...
Look at how as soon as the muzzle comes out, she is like, aha! Nose goes in that, and she offers it happily.
Dog to move forward into a muzzle. As you can see here, turning this into a little game makes it an enjoyable activity for Spook. I hold the muzzle a few steps away from her and allow her to run in and place her nose into the muzzle.
Smart dog.
Once your dog is totally comfortable at this stage, we can then move on to the next. Here we present the muzzle in a similar fashion to previously. Once Spook has placed her nose in the muzzle, we then use food to keep her nose there for a longer period of time.
So this is important as well. He is breaking the behavior down into something that is generally called the 3 Ds. So that stands for distance, duration, and distraction. You only ever want to increase one of those at a time. So at first, he held the muzzle really close, so it was easy for her to figure out to put her nose in. Then he increased the distance a little bit, and he had her running to the muzzle. Now he's changed the D, and he wants to build duration. So when you do that, then you have to hold the muzzle closer again, make it easier from a distance perspective in order to allow the dog to be successful and have a chance to work on the duration aspect of it. So he's doing a very beautiful job of splitting this behavior into the many different things that this dog needs to learn one at a time in order to keep the dog successful. Then she gets a break. She's like, hey, I'd like to do more, please.
You may have noticed here that I have changed the type of food I am using. Sometimes baby food or squeezy cheese is easier to feed through the muzzle.
And look how he's always pulling the muzzle away, so the dog never has a chance to pull her face out.
Again, notice how I remove the muzzle away from Spook's face before she removes her head out the muzzle.
Exactly.
It is important for her not to learn to move her head away from the muzzle.
Exactly.
Once your dog
Very nice.
is comfortably keeping his or her nose in the muzzle for a longer period of time, we can now start touching the neck straps behind the dog's head.
This dog has already been introduced to the neck strap part separately before having the nose in. So now we're increasing a difficulty again because we are adding the neck strap to the nose piece. But he's doing it so gradually that she doesn't panic, she's not stressed out, she stays there, she's happy to be engaged and keep working.
It's important not to clip them on during the first few tries.
Not yet.
Just
Too
get
soon.
the dog used to the feeling of your hands moving around their head, playing with the buckle while the muzzle piece is on their nose.
Exactly. And she's like, can I please have that fun toy back out again? I'd like to keep playing the game, please. Good girl.
With things like muzzle training, it's important that we allow the dog to control at which speed we progress. If we push the dog, then we may make the matter worse and teach them that the muzzle does not predict nice things and it is not a nice thing to have on. Once your dog is comfortable placing his or her head in the muzzle and keeping their nose in there for a longer period of time while you move the neck strap behind their head, you can then start to clip the neck strap on. At this time, keep the neck strap loose so that it does not make the muzzle too tight around the dog's head.
And she keeps having reinforcement.
Before your dog becomes too distracted by it.
Yep. So you take it off before it becomes something to worry about.
Good girl. Clever.
Mm.
Good girl. Good girl.
She's like, this thing makes food appear. I love this. Oh, she's looking so hard a leg goes up. That's so cute.
Also ensure ensure that you have got the appropriate size muzzle for your dog.
Yeah, they have to be able to
You may feel
pant,
that providing your dog with a
open
larger
their
muzzle
mouth, drink
is
water.
ideal. However, this is not true, as it may cause discomfort when your dog is moving around.
Yeah, you have to be careful where it sits on the bridge of the nose.
Adjust the neck strap so it's fit appropriately behind the dog's head. When doing this, do not fit the muzzle piece over the dog's nose. Once the muzzle is securely fit and your dog enjoys wearing it, you can then use it in situations in which you feel the muzzle is appropriate. However, I would recommend that you use the muzzle in other situations as well, so your dog does not learn that the muzzle predicts a certain situation.
Exactly.
A good time to use the muzzle is at dinner times. Feed part of the dog's dinner while the muzzle is on, and ask the dog to engage in tricks and basic obedience. If you find that sometimes your dog is distracted by the muzzle, pays extra attention to it by trying to remove it.
See,
do not.
Let's think about this here in comparison with how he reacts to how Caesar reacted when he put that head halter on, which sits a lot like the muzzle does, and that dog panicked. So she's in no way panicking. She's just like, hey, this is weird. I'm going to take it off. And watch how he responds in comparison.
Do not take
a little bit worried there.
Do not want your dog to learn that they pull the muzzle and you do remove the muzzle.
So he doesn't get upset. He feeds her more frequent rewards.
And then feed the dog and get the dog doing something else.
And she's now relaxing again. This is because he properly set her up all the way through. Now that slight error there of the training plan when she did go to paw, ideally you would avoid that 100%. That would be perfect. But the world is rarely perfect. And so when we make mistakes and our dogs do behaviors that we weren't hoping for them, having a response of kindness, if she had fully panicked, then you take the muzzle off and you go, I screwed up as the person, and you need to reapproach it, back up a number of steps to find where the dog is entirely comfortable and work through the steps a bit more slowly going forward again.
Once the dog is distracted, you can then remove the muzzle. If need be, backtrack a step so that your dog is quite comfortable at the level you are.
So the way that we know that that small amount of stress wasn't too much and didn't put her over her threshold of what she can tolerate is the next time that muzzle's presented, there's zero hesitation. Just boom, the behavior is still fluent. She's still willing to work on it. She still wants to put her face in. She's like, hey, it's okay. This muzzle is still a good thing.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Good girl, Spook. Good girl.
She's not avoiding, she's not backing away, her ears aren't pinned, her tail's not pinned. She's just working, happy to engage. I love her licking face, it's so cute.
When you do ask your dog to do activities such as sit or lie down.
So you heard the clicker there. So what that is the second the dog did anything that he is looking for, he's going to reward it. So I have a feeling that he's clicking for movement because that is yet another piece of wearing a muzzle. Wearing a muzzle while standing when it doesn't move on your face is very different to wearing a muzzle when it might jostle a bit as you're moving around. And look at her body language here. Ears are pricked and forward, she's paying attention, she's engaging, she wants to work with him.
Remember, you want to make it fun for your dog.
Exactly.
So your dog learns when the muzzle is on, nice things happen. It is also a good idea to move around with your dog once the muzzle is fitted, so they get used to moving around in different areas with the muzzle on.
Really well done. Okay, let's watch this front door thing. That was a big problem with the dogs that Caesar Milan was working with. So let's see how he addresses this.
I invite you to join me for this impromptu 5-minute training session. As I was leaving a friend's house today, my four-legged friend Edgar wanted to come out the front door with me.
I'll bet.
Edgar is a gorgeous 1-year-old Great Dane Cross Irish Wolfhound, and he
big
weighs
dog.
nearly 80 kilos already. It made it really difficult to get out the front door.
Oh, and there's
So
another dog.
We decided to do a little education session here, a training session, a coaching session, to teach Edgar to do an incompatible behavior to running out the front door.
This is how you should approach this behavior. You don't punish the dog for going. You teach them, when I go to the door, you need to station here. I think that's what I mentioned when I was reacting to Caesar there, because that's one of the most common ways to address this. If I move to the door, I want you to station over there and I want you to wait there while I go and deal with whatever it is at the front door. Now, what I think that's what he's going to be doing here as well, because he was already getting the dogs to lay down here. So if they're laying down on the floor in that spot, they cannot be at the door because they're laying down. So he was trying to lure them into what he wants them to be doing, so that once they're there, he can reward them for being there and teach them, you stay here as I go to the door. But he'll break it down into small little approximations so that the dog is always successful every time.
So I asked Edgar to move away from the door and lie down. And I did this using a lure or a food magnet.
I thought that's what he was attempting to do. And so then you see, as the dog is laying down, he then went towards the door just a little bit and then got back to the dogs before they had a chance to move, as that first approximation.
If you hold a treat on the dog's nose and you move that hand slowly, you can guide the dog's body wherever you want the dog to go without any force at all. And so I'm able to use a food magnet to guide Edgar into a down position.
Oh, good dog.
And then I decide to pay Edgar for that behavior.
Absolutely.
Because when you pay a behavior, you make that behavior get stronger.
Yes.
And so we call it reinforcement. If you reinforce a house, the house gets stronger. If you reinforce behavior, that behavior gets stronger.
I've never heard that used as a comparison before, but I really like it. Yes, we are reinforcing the behavior we want because we know that that means that behavior will occur more frequently in the future.
If you reinforce behavior, that behavior gets stronger. It happens more often.
So there you saw he moved slightly away from the laying down dog towards the door, and Edgar stood up. So that means he's now learned a piece of information that the amount that he moved towards the door was a little too far or a little too fast, or the duration was a little too long. Something was a little too hard for Edgar. So now I bet he'll adjust so that it's slightly easier, so that he can keep Edgar laying down and start building on this laying down behavior.
Often it can
Perfect.
happen
See
quicker,
right
it
there.
happens for
See,
longer.
he didn't move as far or as fast that time.
When I give that paycheck, when I give that treat, it tells me something about that treat. It tells me that that treat
a
isn't
little too much
sufficient
again.
paycheck for that behavior.
Exactly.
So maybe I need to write a different number on that check. Maybe rather than giving one treat, I need to give 2 or 3 treats. Or rather than giving a boring treat, I need to give something more exciting.
They have a turtle. Do you see that coming in the screen there? 2 dogs and... oh my goodness.
Exciting. And that's just a fact of life.
Look.
We get paid to go work. We work harder, we expect more money.
He's saying here is very true. And you can see that this time he was able to move further from Edgar, and Edgar stayed laying down. Edgar's starting to figure out the game here.
What we do is we pay Edgar for lying down. I take some steps away from him, and if I take a step away and he stays in that down position, I walk over and I focus on giving positive consequences, treats. And what I find is those treats are functional.
And don't trip over the crawling turtle either. And I love how the other dog so badly wants to be included. Now, if Edgar was still having a hard time laying down here, we could make it even easier for Edgar and remove the distractions and make it even easier yet. But he's able to do it, so the other distractions are fine to stay.
As reinforcers, because I noticed the behavior of lying down is getting strong.
Oh, that's a big deal there. He was able to crack the door, and he did it for the briefest of seconds that he can still bolt back to Edgar to reward him for that. Big deal.
Because it's happening for longer, and I'm able to start opening that front door slowly. If I open that front door and Edgar gets up, all I do is close the front door, wait a few seconds, and then teach Edgar what I want him to do.
Exactly.
There's really no need to say, bad dog, no.
There's nothing, no need.
Because the dog doesn't understand English. And also, they don't know they're doing anything wrong. Because how many dogs do you know that live around doors in the wild? It's a human construct. It's a human concept.
Exactly. This is exactly right. Now you'll notice here, because Edgar's still being successful, he's opening the door for slightly longer periods of time, and so the door is getting slightly wider, but Edgar is still being successful, and I'm impressed he hasn't tripped over the crawling amphibian there.
And so these human games, we have to educate dogs to
Yes.
do them. The dogs don't know right or wrong.
Exactly.
The dogs just learn. Oh, when I go near that front door, my owner sometimes gets angry or dangerous.
Exactly.
They don't really understand what you're trying to teach them. Whereas if you take a few minutes, and you can see this video clip is under 5 minutes, or around 5 minutes.
We're
and
currently 3 minutes in.
You've already taught Edgar in a few minutes that lying down pays off.
Exactly.
And when you lie down, when I walk towards the front door, good things happen. So in the future, Edgar's likely to lie down away from the front door when I go towards the front door, because that's the behavior that pays off.
There he goes.
And when we make things fun for animals, they want to play our games. And also, when we don't use force and conflict, what we find is we get less aggressive behavior. It's just like
Exactly.
people, when you push their buttons, if you push people around, if I was to grab Edgar's collar and push him away from that door.
That was impressive. So he opened the door fully and he could take a step into the threshold. Very nice. We're 3 minutes of behavior modification training time here. Now, Patel is going to be much quicker than the average person at getting this behavior change because his timing is wonderful. He's very good at changing the criteria to keep Edgar successful with very few errors, and those things matter majorly. When you have lay people working on this, they'll make more mistakes. Their timing's not as precise. They aren't as good at reinforcing in the right position or with the correct speed. And so it takes longer to produce behaviors like this. But you can see this is fast, zero force. The dogs are becoming more relaxed. They are happy. Nobody's being yelled at. Nobody's being bitten.
Door or start pushing him all the time. What I could start to do is shorten that fuse.
Exactly.
And with people, if you push people around, at one point they're going to snap.
Yep.
And that's what happens with dogs too.
Exactly.
When you push them around, they snap.
Yep.
And so we don't want to do that. We want to focus on listening to the dog's body language, listening to their whispers, and they have no reason to shout or
Exactly.
scream.
Oh.
And so Edgar stands up there. I just close the door for a second, give Edgar a moment.
Yeah, there's no punishment.
And then I ask him to lie down. And we do that
The
again.
dogs are still loose body language. They're still happy. They're still engaged. Patel even has a smile on his face. He's not stressed that this mistake happened. It's no big. All we're going to do is wait a moment. The dog figures out, oh, that didn't work for me. But maybe if I try that laying down thing again, that was working. So let's go back to that.
How many more seconds or minutes he's lying down for without
he
getting
tries
up,
pawing.
and how I'm able to open the door nearly all the way. Now what we're doing
Wonderful.
is we're using successive approximations. These are small steps to get to our eventual goal. And so rather than just walking to the front door and opening it straight away, you notice I took a step away, came back, gave him a treat. Took 2 steps away, came back, gave him a treat.
Yep.
Took 3 steps away, came back, gave him a treat. Opened the door a little bit, come back, give him a treat.
So now Edgar was able to be successful where he could open the door and stand on the threshold and then come back in. That's a big deal. Nice progression.
Open the door a bit more until eventually we can open the whole door.
Exactly.
Go practice with your dog, have fun, show lots of love.
Exactly. Now, none of this is to say that Edgar here has completely changed his behavior. His people will need to continue to work on this, and there will be a few sessions, but look at the vast improvement in less than 5 minutes. That's brilliant. In a few more sessions, this behavior issue would be resolved. No aggression, no redirection, no shutting down, no trauma, no learned helplessness, an eager participant in the training process. Hope that you have enjoyed this, and thank you for joining me. If you have a topic suggestion you'd like me to cover in the future, or a popular person that you'd like me to cover in a future video, don't hesitate to leave the suggestion in the comments below. I look forward to reading them. And I put out a new video most Fridays, so I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.